Everyone, this is update for June 28, day 125 of the war, end of the date update. So today, as promised, we're gonna do overview of the Wagner mercenaries, just sort of one comprehensive look at everything, what's going on. So, so the way they started, it was in 2013. There were two employees of the Moran security group, which is based in Russia, even though it has English name and everything. So that it was a pure security company that was specializing in maritime. Atlas VPN. So what is VPN? VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It's an encrypted tunnel between two devices that lets you access every website and online service privately and securely. Atlas VPN is not only protecting your identity. First, it protects you from price gouging by companies. You may not be aware, but many online services charge different prices based on your geographic location. The most notorious at price discrimination are airlines, hotel booking services. Second, many businesses such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and government entities have geo-restrictions. With Atlas VPN, you can bypass those geo-restrictions by choosing to connect to the server in the country you need. I personally use Atlas VPN to do research for the videos you watch in that way. Right now, Atlas VPN is running a huge discount. You can get 3-year subscription for just $1.99 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Time is running out, so get your deal by clicking the link in the video description below. Finally, Atlas VPN is blazingly fast and protects all of your devices with a single subscription. Get the best VPN deal in the market. Enjoy the most affordable online protection for just $1.99 per month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Security. If anyone remembers, at that time there were a lot of pirates near Somalia and elsewhere that would sort of hijack the tankers and require ransom and all that stuff. So that's kind of like there were a lot of security companies at the time that were providing maritime security for those vessels. And so this Moran was one of them. We don't know when it was founded, so apparently it was existing sort of for a while. But the point is, so there were two employees there who sort of were entrepreneurial, and they, left the company in 2013, went to Hong Kong, registered security company called Slavic Core there, and then they returned, and then they recruited like 200-300, call it employees or soldiers, whatever you want to call it. And they signed contract in Syria, where there was already civil war going on, to protect oil rigs and oil refineries, and so basically energy extraction infrastructure there, to obviously for money. So what happened there is the sort of employees or soldiers ended up actually participating in the fights within different factions. We didn't go in detail. It really doesn't matter. So basically they were sort of participating there in the fighting. And then they returned in 2013 back to Russia. And so they were arrested, all of those people, because apparently it was sort of entrepreneurial, and Russian government, FSB, FSB, and there is an organization called Central Intelligence Authority by the Russian, of the Russian army. So it sounds kind of similar to CIA, but it's actually under Russian army. So that's kind of like a competitor organization, competitor to FSB, KGB. But within the Russian army, basically. So they were arrested, and so one of the persons who was sort of in this Slavic Core was a person named Dmitry Utkin. You see him here on the picture. This is his circle there. He's born in 1970, and so let's just give a little bit background about him, because that's going to be important down the road. So he was born obviously in Soviet Union. He grew up actually in Ukraine. But we don't know like his background, sort of ethnic or anything. So he grew up here in this area over here in Ukraine. But before the fall of the Soviet Union, he left. He decided he wanted to join military. So he was always kind of like a military focused person. So he joined Russian military, served there in a Special Forces Brigade, and you have seen them. We showed them. They actually operating in Ukraine. So, like for example, there's a 10th Special Forces Brigade. Then there's more 3rd Special Forces Brigade. Then there's I think 22nd somewhere. Used to be fighting in Mariupol. There is also 24th Special Forces Brigade operating here. There used to be 45th near Kyiv, 14th. There's also, it's not shown here, and we were never sort of aware that it's actually it is here actually, 2nd Special Forces Brigade. So he was serving in 2nd Special Forces Brigade, going through the ranks, and this brigade, they kind of split into the groups. So it's not like a sort of formal like a military approach. It's not like a company, it's not a squad, it's just kind of like a group, right? So it's more organized on as needed basis, because it's really very, again, kind of like entrepreneurial unit within the army, within the very bureaucratic system in a way. So he was in a 700s group there. That's the name of the group, 700. So it's located in Pskov region, which is neighboring, we don't see it here, but it's neighboring Latvia and Estonia. So he was serving there, and then he retired in 2013 as a lieutenant colonel, and then he joined this Moran security group, basically to earn money. That's a typical path for many, retired military personnel. Then, if they want to, continue, they want to earn a lot of money, good amount of money, they go and work for the securities companies around the world to sort of get some more money. So he was in this group. So when they came back, they were sort of arrested. But the point of arrest was not truly to arrest, but basically to take this Slavic Corps under the control of the FSB or Russian army. And in this case, it was Russian army. So that was basically the point of it. So nobody was truly trying to arrest them or anything. It was just kind of like a forced, basically taking away property from those two entrepreneurial guys in a kind of like forced way. So anyway, so they were all released, and then what happened is there is another person comes into play. And his name is Evgeny Prigozhin. This is here. This is his during the war in Ukraine, in visiting the front line in Ukraine. So he's kind of like also entrepreneur and a close sort of ally, or part of the close inner circle of the Russian president. And so he was kind of like responsible for, basically his initial business was restaurants and catering, and specifically catering to Russian government and all Russian top. And then, he apparently was sort of successful as a business person, and he was trusted to do more sort of confidential things, so he gained trust. And so then what he did, so apparently what happened, and this is obviously our reconstruction, how it all happened. So apparently he saw like that they were sort of caught, and there was kind of like big scandal in 2013. All of these people who returned from Syria, sort of was very publicity, a lot of publicity in Russia, because it's kind of like mercenaries, and it has extremely negative connotation in the former Soviet Union. So it's kind of like very against the culture in general. so if you ask, like if as soon as you say mercenary, it's like for to average person in doesn't matter like Ukraine, Belarus, anywhere in the former Soviet Union, it's like immediately like okay, it's a bad person. I don't want to deal with him. Really negative feeling basically. So he saw that as opportunity. So apparently he had some discussion, and he's also part of the Russian secret sort of how to say secret service, meaning FSB and KGB. And so he kind of like probably saw that as opportunity, and what he decided to do is actually okay, let's take this over. Sort of he's going to be driving kind of like responsible of it. Like technically he's nominally owner, but he's not true owner there. It's kind of like he's more like a manager in a way. And so that he's going to be managing and developing this as a business. So, and the idea is sort of many-pronged idea here. So, okay, so first it's going to be a business, which obviously generates money, and he's a business person, so it's excellent. And at the same time, it allows Russian military to do things that they couldn't do, sort of kind of like call it dirty job, or send troops where they want to, like internationally, political goal there. And then for him personally, it's about earning money, right? So he was, so he basically what they would do, they would get, let's say there is some kind of extractive business in whatever country, so he would get part of the diamond mining operation, or some gold mining operation, or oil production business, right? So oil extraction business. So that's kind of like many things in one package, right? So it's just a tool for him to earn money. For Russian political top is to project their power, create better political situation on the world scene for them, sort of potential support. You never know how it can play out, right? So you can create sort of potential, basically create some opportunity to create allies around the world, and also affect, because also help Russian like large businesses, which is Russia is a big exporter of natural resources. So as you can see, where this group is, it's also some kind of like extractive industries, right? There are countries that based around some kind of extraction of some kind of natural resource, right? So, like for example, in Libya, right? You see that this is very related to the Russian oil export, right? So this is if they can influence Libya, right? So then they can get better positions for themselves as an oil exporter. So, for example, if you remember, some time ago, months ago, so Libya stopped exporting oil, like in very coincidentally with sort of Russian situation. So it then it creates opportunities for on the international scene as mentioned. So this is how it. So he's kind of like a driver, so he's a manager responsible for the business. But actually for military sort of operation, sort of like operations director, or someone who does actually the sort of responsible for execution of this actions is this Dmitry Utkin. This is who we spoke about. And they are based, let me show, they are based, they have their own base near the base of 10th Special Forces Brigade, which is village Molkino, actually in Russian, next to Krasnodar. So this is Krasnodar region here. So it's 30 kilometers from Krasnodar. They have their own base there. And initially it started, it was sort of small scale unit, well, relatively small scale unit, not more than 1,500 people. Initially, because that's what this brigade, special forces brigades typically are. They not more than 1,700 people, and the requirements to get there were pretty stringent. Like they required private service in military, and they had preferences for sort of specialized skills, like, for example, or like airborne units. So basically, not just kind of like an average sort of infantry soldier, but someone who has some additional skills, like sniper, like some kind of like valuable skills, or whatever other skills you can imagine. Basically, they tried to develop sort of quality over the quantity, right? So that was like how it was, the sort of his strategic vision about this unit. And the way it's actually now why this is called Wagner Group. So this is called Wagner because after the nickname of Dmitry Utkin. So every soldier, when you go into operation, you don't go by "Hey Dmitry." Like when you speak over the radio and just any communication, everybody picks up some kind of nickname for himself, right? So he picked the nickname Wagner, right? And so that's why this was called after his nickname, Wagner Group, right? Because it's a group of soldiers who like serve under nickname Wagner, right? So this was kind of the logic behind where the name is coming from and so on. So now let's move sort of a little bit forward. Then his group actually participates in Russian in Russian sort of capturing of Crimea from Ukraine in 2014. That was his first sort of operation in Ukraine. Then later it was in February 2014. That's where you can technically say the whole war started, really. And now it's just more like hotter phase of that war. And then next step was incursion or invasion into Donetsk and Luhansk region of Ukraine, sometime in about April, May, June time frame. So they were fighting there. They were actually they were fighting in Luhansk region initially. Then later, that phase of the war was also kind of like has its own sub phases. So there was hot phase in the summer of 2014. Then it kind of like cooled down in the fall, and then it's kind of renewed in January 2015 through February 2015. So then his group was participating in circle of fighting around Debaltsevo. This is a region it's a town in the Donetsk region. Let's actually, maybe we can quickly jump to that area here. So there was the Debaltsevo salient controlled by Ukrainian army in this area here, and the point of Russian attack was to cut off that salient. In the end, they cut it off, and they created tactical encirclement for Ukrainian troops. There was, I think, one brigade, 128th Brigade, actually, which we see right now here on the Zaporizhia front line. So it was encircled there, but then Ukrainian troops did not get orders to retreat or break out. So the commander of the brigade decided to actually, on its own, took initiative and decided to break out. They broke out from that tactical encirclement. They obviously lost most of the heavy equipment. There were some losses so some soldiers lost, but majority of Ukrainian unit broke out from that encirclement. So that was kind of like a last big hurrah in Ukraine for the Wagner group. And at that time, it was still about 1,700 people. Then they really switched to Syria after that, and that was their heyday, where they really grew there in size. It started to be really much larger organization. They actually had a encounter, I guess, with the U.S. military there, or not encounter, but little skirmish there, where the U.S. Air Force and we believe also U.S. artillery shelled one group of their group of Wagner mercenaries. The size was about 200 to 300 people. Well, maybe there was a little bit bigger size. We don't know for sure, but the sort of end result was that U.S. military killed about 200 to 300 Wagner mercenaries there in Syria, and the fight was actually over the oil refinery, which was controlled by the U.S. military, and apparently Yevgeny Prigozhin wanted to take control of that refinery because he was promised, we don't know for sure, like third or half of the profits from that refinery. So he sent those troops, those mercenaries. They get killed there. It was in 2018, early 2018, in Syria. Then they worked also fought also in Libya, in other places. And as they were sort of growing in size and the revenue grew, they started acquiring, more heavy weapons, right? So to the point that they had tanks, they have BMPs, they have aircraft, aircrafts, not one. They have anti-air missile system. So basically, they essentially like small scale army, more professional, more driven by common sense, like pretty much no bureaucracy, just more logically, common sense driven, and that's a big sort of advantage of this group and why it's being able to sort of succeed. And it's not sort of wild success, but they were mildly successful overall over this time. And the part of the way it's the way their sort of reward system works and just generally how it works is they used those mercenaries. They paid 400,000. They used to be paid 400,000 rubles per month when they are sort of fighting on the ground on the battlefield, which was significant money for Russia. There was probably $6,000 to $7,000 for that's big money for Russia. So they had plenty of people who want to go and join it and go to the war, to the fighting. And then going back at that time, it was pretty stringent in terms of the requirements. So then, as the war in Ukraine broke out, situation changed there. It grew, it expanded sort of exponentially. So now different estimates could be there between 8,000 to 10,000 soldiers or people. And as we discussed, they split into 4 groups in Ukraine. And the way it works, the first, just generally the sort of trajectory of someone who joins, they first go and serve in one of this so-called, like in these places, like low-intensity fighting, like in Africa or Syria, right? And then they go, once they kind of like get used to it a little bit, like sort of like learn some skills during low-intensity fighting, then they just kind of move like next step up, right? And they go into fighting in Ukraine. So that's how it works. The only difference is that the pay got lower, so now it's a standard sort of Russian pay, which is 200,000 rubles per month when you are on the front line. So that's I believe in a nutshell about the Wagner group. Now let's and then actually I forgot one more thing is so this is the way they, let's say, recruit this people, even not the soldiers, we don't know what's the best way mercenaries. So like this is a very interesting example. That's how we found out that they now have even aircraft. So this is actually a retired general of Russian Air Force, and he died in Ukraine near Popasna. He was flying Su-25, the ground attack aircraft, and he got obviously shot by Ukrainian troops, and he died. So that's how we found out about that. They have now also aircraft and much more than just aircraft, all kind of heavy equipment, and essentially you know, so he was again. So they basically go after retired military personnel, and that's how they were recruiting in their ranks. But now, as sort of Ukraine, the war in Ukraine sort of expands and becomes, due to the losses, the situation there in Wagner Group generally changed. So now all of the standards went out of the window. They advertise everywhere. You're welcome to join, and now the only requirement that you don't have any sort of heavy criminal convictions. Basically, what this means, you don't have murder behind you. So otherwise, if you had sort of theft or whatever, you welcome there. You don't need to have military experience. So the quality obviously went down for sure. There is no question about it. The sort of still advantage and the driving force is still there in terms of it's a self-selection of people who want to fight, right? So they don't go to they know that they go to fight, right? It's not like because there are, like, for example, if you compare to the Russian military or and in the past Ukrainian military, there were a lot of people that joined the ranks just because they thought, okay, war never happens. It's just okay pay, and then quick retirement, pension, and you don't need to do much. It's sort of kind of like relatively easy life. It's not huge pay, but it's guaranteed, and then it's guaranteed pension. So there was kind of people there who were just kind of like earning money, I guess you can say that. Versus here, everybody knows from the beginning. You go to to the front line. You're gonna go fight, whether it's Libya or Syria or whatever, or Central African Republic. You're not going there to sort of live like normal, quiet life. You're actually going to the war. So this creates self-selection. So they naturally select people who are sort of more naturally gifted towards war, towards military, right? So who are more, in that way, entrepreneurial as well, which also means there is more initiative. And because they don't have much of the bureaucracy of the typical sort of army, that creates huge advantage on the battlefield, because initiative is one of the biggest advantages. And that's actually what we would say largely, let's say, Russian army right now lacks in Ukraine at the low level. We're not talking about the higher, we're just assessing. But this the soldiers or mercenaries in this unit, they have natural this initiative, right? And it's not constrained by the bureaucracy. So that's why this unit is more efficient, achieves better results. And we discussed this before, how they managed to cut off Svitlodarsk salient controlled by Ukrainian army, which was well entrenched and was excellent position for Ukrainian army. But they managed to attack it from the flank and from the rear, and basically force withdrawal of Ukrainian troops. So you can see the difference. This initiative, this drive there, right? Even though the average quality dropped for sure, it's more sort of similar to the regular army units, but there's still that drive there. So that's kind of like a hopefully comprehensive overview, helps everybody to understand. So in other words, this is not, as a summary finally, so final words. So it's not true private company, basically, right? It's extension of the Russian government, and it's sort of, they put the form of the private company because then it allows to hide and not to take responsibility for whatever action they will do anywhere on the globe. And it's just like, oh, it's a private company, it's not our responsibility, they just did it, it's not us, we're not responsible for this. So this is how it works. And at the same time, it gives a benefit, because if they install their puppet regime somewhere around the world, then that puppet regime is basically can be easily manipulated by the Russian political top to their advantage, right? So it works. It's kind of like a perfect tool. You have all of the upside, but you don't have any downside essentially with it. So that's how. And then plus you also, it self finances, so it doesn't drain resources from the Russian government because it self-finances. It gets money from those military operation that it's engaged in. So hopefully this now is more or less clear. Now let's actually go and look what's going on along the front line. Let's do clockwise. Let's go in a clockwise fashion, starting from the very north. Again, as always, there is our exchange of artillery fire across the border. Nothing new there, more or less the same. Now let's move south towards Kharkiv. Let's see what's going on there. Here again, the fighting is still going on for the buffer, for the Russian troops. They try to maintain this buffer. Ukrainian troops try to squeeze them out. At this point, as we discussed, many of the regular Ukrainian brigades were pulled out of here. So the only one that's sort of regular brigade is 92nd. The rest is just militia here, which is light infantry. So now Russian side kind of felt that they have a little bit more sort of advantage, or the balance of power shifted in their favor. So they're trying to now more actively push Ukrainian troops down south and to increase their buffer. So there were strong pressure in this area. There's a village Donetsk. We don't see it, but it's still in Ukrainian hands. And as we mentioned many times before, there's strong pressure in this area. But it does look like Ukrainian front line holds here, and it's also low intensity fighting. It's not nothing made. It's not like brigade or battalion size fighting. It's really just like maximum. It's company, and in most times it's a squad type of skirmishes here. Now let's move south. Let's go to Izyum bridgehead. Let's see what's going on here. So situation on the bridgehead itself is call it stable, unchanging. Russian troops continuing their attacks to move southeast towards Slavyansk, but no success here. Again, it's attacks towards this village Dolyna and Krasnopilya. That's here, this area. Now let's move to Lysychansk salient. Let's see what's going on there, because that's the most dangerous area for Ukrainian side right now. So today, actually, Russian troops did not manage to gain any ground. They maintained two strong attacks towards this village Maloryazantseve here, without actually capturing it, or without basically breaking through Ukrainian defense lines. And the same goes true here for this attack towards the village Spirne. So this is their kind of like axis of attack here, as you can see. So, but in our opinion, at this point, the logistics here is essentially severely, for Ukrainian side, is severely inhibited. And so ability to supply the troops here is almost not there. And it's just a question of how many days Ukrainian troops can stay in this Lysychansk salient, essentially. And we have strong opinion that probably slowly Ukrainian command is pulling out troops from here, because it's very obvious here that they cannot last much longer. Also, Russian side reporting that they managed to establish bridgehead here, and then very north there's village Privida here. So basically they're trying to create pressure from this side. So basically they're trying to kind of create critical situation for Ukrainian command to overwhelm it with sort of amount of threats, and kind of create sort of psychological pressure to withdraw. And they hope that this is going to be disorderly withdrawal, which we don't see that situation. But it's very clear Ukrainian troops need to pull out from here. There's no question about it. And as we discussed before, the best way would be just to sort of form, withdraw, basically to the Zolotarivka and Bilogorivka, form the sort of front line, kind of like this at this point. But so far, it probably for political reasons, Ukrainian command is not fast to withdraw from this area, even though it's from military perspective, it's clear there is sort of no future for Ukrainian forces at this point in this area. Now this is just kind of quick a quick refresher how the sort of situation, how quickly situation actually developed here. So this was just June 25th. You see the front line just was sort of stabilized after withdrawal from this Yerske and Zolote salient that Ukrainian troops evacuated from. And then literally next day they were already sort of dancing Ukrainian defenses here. And then like the following day you saw there was sort of whole scale, essentially we can sort of say collapse of the defensive line in this area. So it actually we actually somewhat surprised that Ukrainian troops managed to sort of stabilize situation where it is, because it was extremely on the edge. It is on the edge right now because there's not much is needed. Like if Russian troops somehow manage to break through to capture Zolotarivka, it's gonna be pretty much game over for Ukrainian troops. It's gonna be very disorderly withdrawal from this whole area under Russian fire. Or let's say if they take this village Maloryazantseve. So essentially, the situation is on the edge from the being extremely negative and with negative consequences for Ukrainian army. That's why we say that Ukrainian army really needs to withdraw as soon as possible before it turns into really negative situation. Now let's move a little bit south. Let's see what's going on in the southern section of the Popasna salient. This is Popasna for those who knew. So nothing new here. There's no sort of new extreme pressure here from the Wagner mercenaries. We don't have explanation why it starts sort of like becoming a little bit more calmer. Either they regrouping for new attack, or it's unclear to us what's going on there. But it's quiet for now. Now let's move down south. Let's see what's going on west of Donetsk. Situation here is essentially the same. Positional fighting, sort of probing attacks here, as we saw, like towards this New York, and then with the idea of encircling Avdiyivka, but it's just probing attacks with small-scale forces. Nothing. Essentially here, situation is frozen on pause. Now let's move towards Zaporizhia front line here. The situation is the same in this area, with the exception that apparently Russian troops deciding to kind of like launch small-scale probing attacks here towards Vugledar and in this area, with the idea of apparently sort of distracting or creating false impression in the Ukrainian command that some new attack is being prepared in this area, so that Ukrainian troops don't withdraw any resources from this area in general. But otherwise, the situation here is sort of stable and on pause. And then let's just quickly jump to Kherson bridgehead. Situation here is exactly the same as west of Donetsk, as on Zaporizhia front line. It's on pause. Reconnaissance skirmishes. No major action here. Let's put it this way. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow. Bye bye.